We're live
Live
at the Pod Hub.
at the Pod Hub.
Katie, this is your guest. You go.
Yeah.
You intro.
Ladies and gentlemen,
Yeah.
welcome to the Pod Hub.
She's getting good now. Look at her
I
go.
had to drop the other opening that we were so used to for like 6 months, and it took me quite a while.
Mm.
But I would like to introduce you to Justin Tabsett, a gentleman that I have followed, and I've been to a few of your conferences when I was at Contours. But my very first gym membership was at Active Gym in North Ryde. When I was at Macquarie University, I had 2 gym memberships dedicated. At the time, I was still at the uni bar as well, so 3 memberships.
I got like 3 gym memberships now. My
Yeah.
wife hates me.
Oh, yeah.
She's like, "Do you really need the CrossFit and the fitness first?" And and the yoga. I don't do yoga.
That's all tax deductible for us, right?
Swimming, yeah, exactly.
So I don't know the whole history. We'll let you go into that. But you did have the gym there, and then you're now doing active management, and I'll let you chat about that. But I do remember one thing that you said, and this resonates with me in terms of customer services. At one time, I think you had 3,000 different types of gym memberships on your books.
Not quite 3,000, but close.
But close, where you tailored what that customer wanted.
Oh my gosh!
So they said, I can only do Mondays and Tuesdays. We got a membership for that. We'll
Oh,
make
wow.
a membership for that.
That's a good
It may have
idea.
been the same price, but they felt like that
That's awesome.
membership was tailored towards them. So that's my introduction of you. You're doing an amazing job. You support fitness businesses around the world. So I'm always seeing your passport somewhere in the US, or you've just been to New Zealand and whatnot. So let's give our listeners a little brief history about yourself. And
Oh, gee. Thank you for
where
that
did it start?
introduction.
That was a great introduction.
Can I take you on the road?
Yeah, don't.
First class, yes.
See, that's why we need Katie to introduce our guest. Because when I started introducing Dave, our last guest, I started talking about
Hey,
my
Dave.
shit shirt that I was wearing, and then we started going into that avenue.
Oh,
That
by
was
the
a
way,
great
this is
one.
Dave.
Yeah, by the way, this is Dave. So, great introduction. Katie, you're now lead introduction queen, and welcome in Justin.
Oh, thank you. Wow. Well, I've been in the industry since 1980.
That wasn't 1980, was it?
I was negative too.
You were negative,
Negative
7.
It was actually the defining moment when I decided to sell my health clubs, when I started to employ people who had been alive less than I'd owned gyms. I kind of went, I think this is the time to get out. I don't quite understand our market. So yeah, no, look, I went to uni to be a phys ed teacher, probably like a lot of personal trainers, people in the fitness industry. And in my second year at uni, at prac teaching, I had a kid throw a chair at me from the back of the room and tell me to go forth and multiply in just one word, because he wouldn't have been smart enough to put all them together. And my part-time job was working in a gym, and I thought, you know what, I'm going to work in a gym. Because people tell you to go forth and multiply in the gym, but it has a different tone.
Yeah.
They pay you for it.
Yeah. And so I was really enjoying working in the gym, and that's kind of where I started. And I think one of the attributes that I bring to either our clients or to our industry is that I've done everything. So my very first job in the gym was following people around and wiping their sweat off equipment, because towels weren't compulsory in the gym that I worked at, and it wasn't air conditioned. So that was my first job. So I did that. I was a gym instructor. I was a PT. I was a salesperson, club manager, or sales manager, club owner, multi-club owner, and now most people in the industry, when you sell your clubs, you got no job, so you become a consultant. So now I'm a consultant and have been for about 15 years, full-time, 10 since Zoe was born, became a full-time consultant.
So important that you mentioned that you literally wiped sweat off the seats or off the cushions of the equipment. And now, you own a gym. You've gone full circle. I think it's important. These days, I've been hearing a lot of people who own corporations and companies are interviewing kids that want these high-level jobs, and they haven't even done like the entry-level jobs yet. So I think it's an extremely important point that, if you want to get somewhere in the industry at the top, sometimes you have to go through the very entry-level points.
Yeah, that's totally right. And a lot of the analogies I make in business goes back to sport. And as a former rugby coach, we used to pick the best players who would do the 1%, the shitters, the really bad jobs.
Yeah, clean the toilets.
Yeah, the ones that did them, that didn't complain, they'd be the ones that you generally would pick in your higher grades. And I think you're right that these days, I was going to say kids, but people want to jump in. People want to jump in at that
Adults,
management level.
Fresh out of school, thinking they're going to go get these, 6-figure incomes, and they want that life. And it's like, man, you haven't even paid your dues yet. There's like a whole 10 years that you have to pay dues and live that crappy lifestyle, and live in a minimalist mindset almost pretty much.
Yeah, totally. And the more street cred that you've got, the more emotional intelligence you have, the more you have the ability to talk to people of any age or any group. I remember the second gym that I worked at when I was a gym instructor. I had a mum walking on the treadmill, and I'd just taken you through a program upgrade. These in the olden days when we had
free programs
for members to build retention. Not sure it works, but anyway. And this lady said to me, she said, Justin, how old are you? I said, 19? No. 20. She goes, yeah, the same age as my son. I said, yeah. She goes, what would your mum do if she found a stash of dope and a bong in your underwear drawer? And I went, why do you ask? She said, because I just found that in my son's, and I'm not sure how to approach it. And I'm like, huh?
Why are you asking me this?
And I look back on that and I go, I might have the answer now, and I'm 30 years older, but at that age, you don't have that. And I think a lot of the personal trainers, particularly these days, they're going to get thrown by questions from their clients that they just don't know the answers to.
Right.
And that, respectfully to them, erodes their credibility as a personal trainer, because the client can't separate the difference between not knowing how to respond to that and losing weight or what you should eat or what strength training you should. The client just bundles it all into one and goes,
I agree.
You're a dope. You don't know the answer to this question.
Yeah. That's a very good point, actually.
So therefore, if you are a younger personal trainer who's passionate about getting somebody to lose weight or do a perfect deadlift, how do you differentiate, or how do you gain that marker, or is it just age and experience?
It's opening yourself to that experience. And that's why I really like working in gyms, because you get that broad spectrum of people.
Yeah.
If you go out as a PT by yourself and you're working with a PT, clients in a park, you've got no team, you've got no people around you. It's pretty lonely.
Yeah.
So it's hard then to build that emotional intelligence and build that progression and maturity, I guess, not just as a technician, but as a human being. Whereas if you're in a gym and you've got a group of people that you're working with every single day, you're mixing with different people, you're talking to different members. They may not be clients, but at least you're talking to people and communicating. We would all agree here around the table, plus probably the people listening and watching, that communication is the key to any relationship, and communication is probably the skill set that's lacking the most.
So how do you break down that communication? How do you think? Is it just more listening? Like Dave was talking about listening last time, last podcast, as a form of communication as well. What do you define the forms of communication we should be working on to improve?
I would totally agree with Dave that our skill set has to go back to listening. And there are so many people that don't actively listen. They hear.
We got 2 ears and one mouth. You should listen twice as much as you talk.
Exactly. But we'll also hear something.
Yeah, right.
And it doesn't mean that it's what the message was.
Yeah, right.
And I see a lot of that in management, where a club manager or a department manager will stand up and they'll say, "This is the promotion that we're running this month. Does everybody get it?" Everybody goes, "Yep, we get it." and the first sale that comes in doesn't meet that criteria because they've heard it, but they haven't listened to the message.
Do you remember the movie White Men Can't Jump with Wesley Snipes?
Yeah.
He said that to Woody Harrelson. He said, "You're listening to me, but you ain't hearing me."
Yeah.
The right accent and the wrong colour.
I got to be PC here.
So yeah, I think that the real key is that listening part of the communication, and I think it takes time to connect with somebody, and we try to rush that.
Yeah, I think so too.
You know, in the world that we live, which is swipe right and you're having sex.
Right. Well, we're trying to give them a solution before we've even vetted them these days.
Totally.
It's like we're giving them a prescription before we've even diagnosed. And I think that's one of my sayings is like, don't ever diagnose before, or don't ever prescribe before you diagnose.
100%.
And vet, ask questions. Literally, you ask as many questions as possible.
And it doesn't matter what we're talking about, whether we're talking about a PT or whether you're just talking about chatting to a girl or a guy in a bar on a Saturday night.
Yeah, right.
You know, before you get to that close.
Yeah, ask hard questions.
That close.
Ask hard questions too.
Spoken like a true salesman there, didn't he?
You said you were married.
There's got to be the open questions. You've got to have the conversation, and you've got to listen to what the person says. One of the exercises that I do when I'm doing training with clubs is I call it the 10 questions, and it's you start with a really simple question like, well, what did you do on the weekend? And then you say, now give me 10 questions that follow on from that. Now, the first time someone does that, every question is a closed question. It's yes or no answer.
Yeah, right.
And so then they're going, oh, no, what's the next question I'm going to ask? And so they really haven't even heard whether it's yes or no. They're just going, I've got to think about the next question. Whereas the skill set of listening and communicating is to hear that answer and then ask another question that's not closed. It's open.
Right, exactly.
So then you're getting deeper, and then you're getting that emotional connection, which is so critical either as a PT or in sales or
even a teacher as well.
As a dad or a mum.
What do you think the biggest mistake PTs make in terms of getting clients on the sales aspect of it? Besides that, not listening, is it telling prices first? Is it trying to give them too much information? Is it the diagnosis? Is it blanketing everybody with the same program? All above?
All the above.
All the above, yeah.
Tell me, do you guys agree that, you know, you can tell when you go into a gym that all the PTs have been at the same training course on the weekend because they're all using the BOSU?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, there's some banded squats or some hip thrusts or some sumo deadlifts.
It's like, this lady's 60 years old and she's just wanting to get mobility, but she's on the BOSU and he's the guy that wants the marathon. He's on the BOSU.
Or she's pulling a 1-rep max sumo deadlift, which I see.
On the BOSU.
Oh my gosh.
On the BOSU.
I think that I was telling Dave this earlier. I think where trainers really mess up a lot is that they try to train clients the way they like to train, and not necessarily based on the client's goal or their overall goal.
And I kind of wonder if that's a bit of an ego.
It has to be. Well, no, I think they're lacking. I think that most PTs, the way the credentials are set up, or the way the curriculum's set up, and getting your credentials, they don't understand the difference between strength training and hypertrophy. They don't understand the principles of fat loss and thermodynamics. So I think that the easiest thing to do is to build a relationship with the client and just train them the easiest way they know how to, which is the way they train.
Yeah.
And they validate that with say, hey, this is the way I train because look at the way I look.
Yeah, that's right.
You know what I'm saying? So like, it's a very easy sell. And most people will buy that because the GP doesn't know any better. Not that it's their fault. They've been fed so much misinformation their whole lives that, you know, they don't know how to simplify and to break it down into principles.
I think it's a likening to, like I always say, there's only a very few rugby coaches, right? Because just because you're a great rugby player doesn't transpire into you're a great coach.
Some of the best coaches that I've met in my life weren't the best players or at their skill that what they're coaching me in. One of the best Olympic coaches I had was like a 90-year-old man that could hardly walk, but he understood movement.
Coaching is an art form.
Yeah.
That's trying to get that person to do exactly what
Right.
you want them to do in the right movement pattern, with the right technique.
Right.
So I think that's where it comes stuck. Hey, I like to train. I like to look good. Therefore, I'm going to be a great personal trainer.
Yeah, not necessarily doesn't always pan out.
Yeah, I kind of think that PTs, I think where they go wrong is they want the shortcuts. And there's no shortcut.
No.
Like, you can't walk up to somebody you don't know and say, hey, would you like a complimentary PT session?
Right.
That person on the gym floor is like, well, who are you?
Right.
You know, I don't know you. Let's build a relationship. Like for me, it's kind of a 6-step process before you have earned the right to ask for a comp session.
Right.
So I talk about, you know, if you're on the gym floor or if you're in the community, people need to know who you are.
Points of contact.
Then they need to like you. Then they need to trust you.
Right.
And when they trust you, they'll then buy off you. If they don't trust you, you have to sell to them. And the difference between buying and selling is that when they buy, they own the decision and they're responsible for the decision, and that's going to lead to adherence. Whereas if you have to sell something to them, they walk away with buyer's remorse. You probably got them for 6 or 10 sessions, and you're really pushing shit up.
And you can't show result in 6 or 10 sessions.
No.
And it's hard to upsell off that. And it's hard to sell somebody at the initial point of sale and say, hey, you know, we're probably not going to see a whole lot of physiological changes in the next 8 weeks.
Totally.
You're going to feel something internally. You're going to see stuff inside that's going to feel better. But as far as looking at yourself and seeing a difference, you're not going to see that for 12 weeks.
And I think one of the missing links in all the curriculum for PTs is teaching clients behavioural change.
Right. Oh, yeah, of course.
Because what we're doing
Mental
is,
aspect.
you know, my mum's a great example. My mum's a great example. Like if she decides she wants to exercise, she's got to fit it in.
Yeah.
And for 20 years, she's never exercised. But then the doctor says, look, you really need to do something. My mum has just been diagnosed with type 2 diabetes. It's like, you need to exercise. And she's like, okay, well, I don't have time. Well, we need to work out how to plan the time and then change the behaviour so she fits that in. And most trainers would probably say, right, you need to train 3 times a week. And so what she hears, goes back to that communication, is what she hears is, if I don't train 3 times a week, then it's not worth me even training once a week.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, small changes, big results, right?
So let's just get her in once. Once is better than none. Twice is great. 3 times is a bonus. 4 is blah, 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 blah. And I really feel that as trainers, going on your point, which is you train the way I'm going to train. Well, they're completely different people. My mind's completely different.
I see 6-year-old women pulling 1 rep maxes. It makes me really, really upset.
Do you reckon it's also because there's such a big competition with trainers within that particular gym as well? Like we got me, say we're on one gym, me, Andrew, Katie, yourself, all striving to get that, you know, one client, because we've got to put food on our table. So therefore we've got to, you know, exert ourselves or, you know, push out our ego to try and get that client. Because shit, I don't want to be eating baked beans. Excuse my swearing. You know, I want to be eating well. Like I want to be paying my bills. So, do you think that comes into some things, especially when they're first starting off anyway, because you're trying to grow your business?
100%. But the biggest problem with most PTs is that they want to train everybody.
Mm.
And I know from your background, and I've already picked up from yours, Andrew, who you would train and who you would train.
Right.
So I went into a gym in Victoria. And, you know, you guys know these standard PT bios on the wall.
Mm.
There's the photos, there's the qualifications, and so 3 across, all the same qualifications. And then there's the question, who do you like to work with? And the first person on that list, the first person said weight loss, body shape, and general fitness. The second person said body shaping, general fitness, and weight loss. And the third person said general fitness, weight loss, and body shaping.
I think they had a shit PTM, really. They're telling them the same board.
And I'm sitting there going, okay, so the way I'm going to determine who I want to train with is who's the best looking.
Yeah,
because you've got the same quals and you're not actually separating. So I think the real key for a PT to be successful, whether they're in a gym or whether they're training in a park, is to be really clear on who they want to train. And we talk about that as a buying persona or an avatar and being able to describe that person.
Right.
Because none of us, maybe you, but none of the 3 guys here would probably want to train my mum, a 76-year-old lady who's got adult onset diabetes. You kind of go, well,
that's a tough one.
That's not really my market.
Yeah, right.
And I'd love to train your mum. Have a good coffee, have a chat. Hey, that's my go. That's my jam.
Walking down the street with her.
Walking down the street, yeah, that's it.
You would talk her ear off.
Just chat, talk her ear off.
That's a good point. We said this with Dave earlier, is that, you know, when you're in the vetting process, it's extremely important that as a trainer that you vet and that you may not have the type of relationship that you're going to be able to help the person you're speaking to. So at that point, it's who in the gym do I trust with this person that has the skill set that I think that's better than mine, that could help them or service them better than I can.
Totally.
And I think that if you're a good trainer and you realize that there's the law of attraction and the law of abundance, you give that referral to another trainer, you're going to get something in return for that. It may not be directly or immediately, but at some point, that's going to come back to you. And if it doesn't, at least you've helped somebody out.
And your expectation would be that your PTM or your PT manager would notice that, but also promote that within the team.
Well, even the person that you're vetting, they're like, man, well, I have a mate that wants to train, and like, man, he really treated me well and referred me to another trainer. He treated me really well. Well, I want to refer my friend to him because maybe my friend will gel well with him.
Exactly.
So you never know the opportunity that could arise from you doing the right thing.
I heard a great analogy from the personal training coordinator or manager for Les Mills in New Zealand. And he said most times in gyms, it's an arranged marriage.
Yeah, that's true. Because they just put...
It's whoever's available. It's not based on Andrew's skill set, Liam's skill set, your skill set. It's like we just put you with this person because that's when they're available.
You have a time slot, That's it. That's what me and Liam were PTMs at Fitness First George Street, and that's what I did. I mean, we got hundreds of leads a week, and they have to get service. So,
I don't have and then it depends on the PT who's looking for that lead, So
it's not the easiest thing,
It's a jigsaw that's hard to put together.
It is, and it waters the industry down a little bit because if you were able to vet a little bit more and to get more out of that and to really set them up with a trainer, but the problem is that all those PTs are running their own businesses, they're on their own schedules, they're not very flexible.
Yeah,
it's not the easiest thing in the world. And as a PTM, I could take them as a PTM, but then I'm adding hours onto my day.
And
I'm not getting paid for it. So I mean, not that I wouldn't want to help, but at the end of the day, I mean, I'm already doing a lot of hours. So
there's another thing I think about the buying selling aspect, as well as what I used to say. I mean, Fitness First screwed the industry in terms of sales, right? When they first came in and they were the hard selling gym, whether it be PT or whether it be gym
finance first.
Or finance first.
Finance first.
They've changed big now when they brought on full-time PTMs and to actually look after their PTs rather than the hard sell. But coming back to what I used to say when I was lecturing, the students would say, well, people are scared because they think that as soon as they talk to a trainer, they've got to buy something. Right?
Yeah, right.
Oh, how do I do a deadlift or a deadlift or a squat? It's like, I can't ask that PT because now they're going to hit me up for.
But it works the other way though. Like as a PTM, I remember being in Market Street and people would come up to me going, "This trainer's bothering me." I'm like, "Why? What do they do?" They're like, "They told me what to do." I'm like, "That's their job," So it's also hard for because
there are some out there that are kind of like
it's a hard one. Like every case is different, isn't it? Because you got finance, you got the industry that's being built on finance first, and so many members are thinking that they're going to get sold to, and then you got other people that just want to change. Help. Exactly right. So,
I always found it interesting that when I was a PTM at George Street that all the other trainers, whenever we had trainers going out trying to get people off the gym floor, they'd come to me and complain. And I'm like, dude, if you're a good trainer, you shouldn't have to worry about people hawking your clients.
Yeah,
absolutely.
I mean, what are you worried about, man?
One thing I used to say to them is, deflect it in what you're saying, Andrew, is vet them. Let's have a chat.
Have a real authentic chat and actually get down to the root of why they're sitting in that chair as opposed to, I want weight loss, I want fat loss, I want to gain weight, or I want to gain weight, I want to gain muscle. Why?
Yeah.
Well, you want to look better at the gym? You want to look better at the beach? You want to be more confident?
That's what I used to say. I might not be the best person for you. I might not be able to help you. That automatically takes that sales process out. What do you mean you can't help me? Right? It's like, I may not be able to help you. Let's just have a chat. See if I'm the right person for it.
You just got to make it about
that diagnosis that you were saying.
Exactly. You got to make it about the person because we're out there to help. That's the end of the day. We are out here to make money at the end of the day, but we are here to help and service people. And if you're an authentic person and a trainer, the best thing you can do is just treat people the way you'd want to be treated. I wouldn't want to be sold by a PT if they generally couldn't help me or they weren't the best person for that. I want them to give me to somebody else.
Now, Katie, there are some people that do need a push.
Oh,
because there are the people that sit on the fence.
To take on a PT or?
To take on a PT, to take on a membership, to make that buying decision.
Yeah.
And if you're with a skilled salesperson, then they know how to give that nudge without it coming across as hard sales.
Right.
And generally that nudge is because we've connected.
Right.
Yeah, and I think in the '80s, but in the 2000s, a lot of our sales processes were. I'm not trying to connect with you.
It's tips and tricks, man. I was just watching, listening to a podcast about this. We went through a whole big time period where we used tips and tricks and like sales tactics, and like we treated people as like robots almost, and like that's not authentic at all. The best thing you can do is show somebody how you can add value to their life.
Add content.
I can add value. I can solve your problem, and that's an authentic relationship you can build with somebody.
Yeah, I wasn't even training. I wasn't meant to take on any personal training clients. Well, I didn't want to anyway, because I was PTM, and I was just taking a class one day, and all I said to this guy was, "Mate, stop being a princess. Like, just having a laugh with him." He would refuse to train with any of my trainers who are 10 times better than me, body transformation specialists. He would refuse to it because I just had a bit of banter with him. So it doesn't have to be sometimes always that deep and trying to get the onion layer effect of trying to figure out why. Some people just need a mate, like just have a hug, have a laugh. Someone just say.
I mean, most of the time we're therapists anyway. I mean,
not that it's bad to be a princess. I wasn't discriminating anything. I was just calling him a princess.
You called me a legendette.
Legendette.
Is that being sexually discriminate?
No, I didn't even get that opportunity to say that. You said that's being sexually discriminate straight away. So I just took that out of it.
Do that?
The a really interesting correlate to what you just was talking about there, Liam, is what happened in the US with supermarkets. And we saw it happen here in Australia. And so what supermarkets thought from their customers is that they wanted to buy their groceries quickly and get out of the supermarket. So they got rid of all the checkout chicks or checkout blokes.
Nice. Well done.
And they just went to self-serve. And the supermarkets that were just all self-serve saw their sales drop. So guess what they did? Ask the customer, kind of, what do you think? What do you want? And what they identified was 3 different types of customers. They identified the customer that does just want to go and get their stuff, scan and get out as quickly as possible. Then they identified the customer that is prepared to line up, have their groceries scanned by a checkout chick or checkout bloke, because they don't want to pack the bag.
Yeah, right.
They want someone to pack the bag. And then there's a third customer, which is Mary, who just wants to go in and talk to someone because she doesn't talk to anyone else during the day.
Yeah.
She might be an older lady. She could be someone who sits in a telephone booth all day on the phone but doesn't actually connect with anybody. And so they went back to, we got to have these three offerings. And what often happens in gyms is we don't actually cater for those 3 types of people. And as a trainer, you're always going to have clients that just want to come in, do the session and get out. And then you got others that don't want to have to do anything, and then others that want to have a chat. And I think what we have to understand as PTs is, well, where's my strength? My strength might be training clients who just want to get in and out.
Yeah, right.
And my strength might be walking down the street having coffee with my mum.
Being able to identify those 3 different behaviors is important. Because a lot of people can't identify that.
That's just sitting down and talking to them even before you're out on the gym floor on a session.
You can kind of tell, if you're in a gym like George Street in the city, you can kind of tell which people are in there and out really quick, which people are in there for a chat, and which people are, need some help.
But what about... sorry.
Go ahead. You're good.
What about if I feel like, personally, I feel like I can train those different personality types? Like I can train your mum. I feel like I could train. I'm not trying to put that out there. I'm not trying to put that out, but I feel like I can.
You have a broad range of
personally, I feel like I could.
Is it not identifying what the client wants quickly? Because you wouldn't be wanting to train Justin's mum the same way that you want to train a CEO at George Street. So
you can adapt to the client.
I feel like I can. Yeah, I've got that. What about if I'm a PT and I feel like I've got that adaptable personality? Like I just love people. I know it sounds cheesy, but I love people.
Clients. So if you're a good trainer, you should be able to train anyone.
So how far do you go with like niching? Just a curiosity thing. Like, do you niche yourself, or is that a niche in itself to be adaptive to the people that come in the gym as well, or is that?
I'm a fan of niching as deep as you have to enjoy your job.
client. If you enjoy it, don't just get it so you can get more clients. I think it wouldn't be authentic relationships.
Exactly. So if you're the type of person who is naturally curious and naturally likes people and can adapt to those three, then you'll love your job. But if you're the type of person who doesn't want to have small talk with people, then you've got to go, that's not the person I want to train because I'm not going to enjoy my job.
Yeah.
It's going to piss me off.
I had a job a client, one of my last clients, I could not talk to the guy. Like, we just had no conversation. It was so dull, and like, it was, hey, how's your night going? How's your night? Yeah. I'm just like, fine as a mate. It was like, this isn't working.
Man, I trained a homeless man.
I would do that.
I legitimately trained a homeless man. I didn't know he was homeless.
You know what I was going to say?
He had a gym membership.
Just walking over
He had a gym membership.
Mate,
he lifted that Matthew Talbot.
That is the smartest thing ever.
He was on a 7-day trial.
Who's that?
That is, but honestly, I told myself if I was homeless and I would have a gym membership back home, 24-hour fitness, the gym membership was like $20 a month.
But you used to pay me though.
$5 a week. I could have a gym. I could have a shower. I could have a sauna.
Yeah.
I could have a swimming pool.
That's right.
Hey, and you could probably have a hydromassage as well.
You're probably right. You know the amount of people you'd meet. Like,
we had a guy.
So many roommates and friends. And
we had a guy at Market Street. I don't know if I'm allowed to say this, but I can say. As soon as we went 24/7, we were all wondering what would happen if someone was homeless and they stayed in our gym. And being the PTM, they were sitting, one of the senior staff. Like, it was one of 3 or 4 of us that would get phone calls. In the morning, 3 a.m. in the morning, and I didn't know about this phone call. I think that our club manager got a phone call at the time, and we found out that a homeless guy climbed through our bin, the towel bin, and a towel bin went into the PT locker room, which went into the staff, but the staff area, like where all the PTMs sits, stole my jumper. Stole the trainers' food and stuff like that. But then it was early in the morning, like the PTs were coming in, and we didn't know. He stayed there overnight, and then the cleaners didn't ask any questions. But everyone felt sorry for him, and they gave him money. Like,
oh wow!
But then we went through the footage afterwards. We're allowed to go through the footage,
and
we're like fast forwarding it. We're like, how the hell did this guy get in this towel bin? And he figured it out. He's got some yoga skills. He must have been doing his yoga classes.
He just slid through it.
Slid through the bin, and then came out with like an apple and like whistling down the street with my Fitness First jumper on and shit like that.
But you're right. That's the best thing you can give them, right? As a gym membership, because they access to
100%.
showers.
But he just moved. He wasn't like a full homeless person. He just moved up from Melbourne, and he was like just.
He was just a bogan then.
Just a bogan.
No,
21-year-old.
That's the other way.
But still bogan.
Still bogan.
But it's funny that, isn't it? But I did train a homeless guy, Katie. He did pay me. I didn't even know that he was homeless. Didn't know until he said, I go, where are you staying? Because I used to give him lifts. Like, I just try to... He was a bit different. But, like, he'd meet me at the bus stop at Bronny Beach. He'd pay me $40 for half an hour. Like, it's still... this is one of my first clients when I was like 20 years old.
$40
well, that's what they're saying about this generation.
I don't understand.
Smash avocado, no house, but PT, smash
the
avocado,
PT,
Absolutely.
But I found out, I go, where do you want to lift to after a while? Because he used to get the bus after. And I go, where are you living at the moment? He goes, I stay at Matthew Talbot. And I'm like, oh, okay, cool. I'm like, what does that mean? He goes, hey, it's a hostel. I Googled it. It's like a homeless person in Woolloomooloo. I'm like, shit, he's homeless. I'm taking money off this guy.
Or he's the smartest guy ever, and he's got like a succase full of like $1 million.
Well, he did have a suitcase.
You know what I mean? He's just living under the radar, off the grid.
It's like exactly right. It's like I just got $100 million.
His name's John Doe.
Although at a deeper level, I bet at the end of every PT session he felt good.
Mate, always.
I agree, man.
Yeah, and I didn't go easy on him. Even when I found out, I would always go hard on him because he said he wanted to play football and he wanted that little bit of a tough guy. He was like 40s.
Wow.
He was an older guy.
There was a guy in the States that when Arnold Schwarzenegger, that era, I guess it was like mid-70s, like, is that right? He was
Look
like,
at me. What do you look at me?
he was like the avid gym goer, and it was like they did like the documentary. He's still like living in his van, like going to like Venice Beach and like living like the Arnold Schwarzenegger lifestyle. He still
why not?
He still has the he still has that whole like aspiration of being a bodybuilder, and he's like 70 years old. He lives out of his van. It's a little sad. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah,
but he still wears the clothes from the 70s.
And is he happy?
Man, he's probably waiting for the trends to come back. That's all.
Well, that's what it is. Like he has like the the real skinny singlets, and the real high tube socks, short shorts.
The high tube socks.
He's still wearing that, man. Like that's what he's rocking.
I did those by accident the other day because I forgot my socks, so I had to wrap my black suit socks really high in the gym.
You forgot stuff one time at Fitness First as well, didn't you? Didn't you forget shoes one time? You had to go buy some shoes from Walmart.
Oh no, that was for our I think Christmas party.
Oh, was it
Walmart? Maybe I've done that a few times. Yeah.
So Justin, you travel the world with giving consultation to gym owners, to some of the biggest gyms in overseas. What do you think the biggest mistakes gym owners are making in terms of training PTs or revenue streams? Or
look, I think one of the really interesting things for me is this whole subcontracting model, where the PTs pay rent, train clients, but they don't really buy into the culture of the business.
Yeah, right.
And some of the big brands, particularly in the US, have now flipped back to employee model.
Wow, that's a big change, isn't it? Gone from a huge subcontracting where, I know Fitness First at St Leonard's have about 30 PTs paying $1,500 a month. That's $45,000 a month in revenue, and now they're doing the backflip.
Because they can't control what's being said, the message, the consistency in the service, the culture. And because I think the reality is that there's so much competition that we now have to operate as gym owners with less members, so we want to therefore generate more income from each of them. And if we want to generate more income, we want to control what that income looks like. Mm-hmm. And so we're seeing a lot in the US of just being able to really control, and I mean that in a nice way, the communication to the client, and that the trainer understands that the client is a member of the club first and a client of the trainer second.
Right, okay. So they want to retain more of the clients than...
Correct. They've got to control that, whereas... And so, you guys would have seen this in many of the clubs here, is that if you're training a client and there's a breakup, there's a divorce...
The divorce.
...happens, the member leaves the gym.
Yeah.
The trainer stays, but the member leaves. And you just can't afford that these days.
No.
Yeah.
Because there's not enough people now coming in the front door if we're losing the people out the back door because the trainer's done something shoddy or is always late or disrespectful, whatever it may be. So, I guess that's the big thing that I see in the US particularly, is this flip to now employees and driving the communications. The other thing, obviously, is in the US and the UK, a little bit in Europe, is the explosion of fitness boutiques.
Yeah, okay. We're seeing that a bit more here with, your rowing studios, your cycle studios.
Or even just general PT studios, like 98 Riley, how they have that sort of gym. Is that what you're talking about? Or
like I went to 98 Riley a few months ago now. I was the only one in there wearing something not black.
Yeah.
I purposely wore a green singlet so it stand out on all their Instagram photos.
Smart man.
Is that coming back to a community? Is that what you think it is? Is that why it's coming back to a boutique?
No, it's I think the reality is that a lot of the consumers are saying we want experts. So traditionally, people that went to gyms were happy with vanilla.
Yeah.
Now they want chocolate, or they want strawberry, or they want tiramisu. They want this special flavour. And the people that run the cycle studios are the best cyclists.
Yeah.
Are the best instructors. They're the best rowers, or like Ben up at Flow Athletic here in Paddington. He's one of the best trainers that creates that experience.
I'm trying to get those boys on board as well.
Oh, yeah.
Coming down here. I had an interview with those guys, Flow Athletic, and I love that concept just there.
Yeah, he does a great job.
Great job.
He was one of the first real boutiques probably in Sydney. And there's more. And the problem is people from Australia go to New York and go, oh, well, we can make this work. The problem is in New York, there's 22 million people in three blocks. So it doesn't quite always translate in Australia. But we're going to see more of these boutique models that are going to come up. and their business is very different. And we see in the US that someone would be a member of Fitness First, the equivalent thereof, as well as go to Barry's boot camp, or they go to Barry's on a Monday, yoga on a Tuesday, outdoor boot camp on a Wednesday, and CrossFit on a Thursday.
See, I had that idea a long time ago, and they've started to implement that fitness passport. And I thought, but that's only for like doctors and paramedics, isn't it?
No,
like,
there's ClassPass.
There's ClassPass, yeah.
There's a few of them out
But
there,
it's my fitness passport cost me like $10 a week or something, and I don't pay any extra. And I go to North Sydney Pool, and then I go to Fitness First. I don't know how they make money. Or they don't make money. Huh?
And that's got to be the kicker in Australia, especially because we are going towards it, if I can see it, more flexible gym memberships and options like ClassPass. But the economies of scale for the land size and the geographic size, like even where I live, there's 3 gyms there. If I buy a ClassPass, you've got 3 gyms there. I'm not going to travel 20 kilometres to go for a session.
Plus, the gym doesn't get a lot of money.
No, it doesn't.
Whereas in the US, they can get 100 people not getting a lot of money and you're making money. Whereas we get 2 people not making money and it's like, that doesn't even pay the wage.
Yeah.
So the economies are different and how it all works is really different. So I think from our perspective in Australia, we've just got to knuckle down, tighten the nuts, tighten the bolts, improve the efficiencies of our business, and also improve the experience that the member gets from the minute that they get in the car park or the minute that they're walking through the front door all the way through to when they leave. And that's the same for a PT as well. I talk about bookending the experience. So when you walk in, something indicates this is the start of the experience in the gym. And when you finish, something indicates that it's finished. So when you go to Barry's boot camp, you're going to go into one of Barry's classes. The instructor holds the door open. This is in every Barry's around the world. Holds the door open and high fives everybody as they go in. You do your class, holds the door open and high fives everybody as they go out. That's a pretty clear bookend of the experience. So you go, right, game on now, game off now. And I don't think that happens in clubs well enough. It happens, you can manage it better in a boutique, but it doesn't happen well in clubs. I was in the gym this morning and I watched the poor lady teaching body pump and she must have been 3, 4, 5 minutes in and people are running into the back of the class. So how does she create an experience for those people? She can't.
Yeah.
But that's what they're wanting.
Yeah.
So it's
a
tough
what do you
one.
do there then? Yeah, it is a tough one, isn't it?
You've got to retrain your members. And I mean, this is one of the things that our problem is we're so flexible because we've got to keep them so hard. We're doing everything to keep them. So we've got to go and keep them. So we just are flexible. But the problem when we're flexible is the bloody members. You give them an inch and they take a mile.
Yeah.
Always.
That's the problem.
I think that's a really big point, and I know you've got to go, so we'll wrap up. But
yeah,
no, she's gone to the toilet.
I was like, "Is that Dad?
Dad? Let's go."
I love that you brought it home. But I think that's a really valuable piece of information. Is that every time you step into a gym, every time you step into a session, it is an experience. And we have to create that because otherwise, firstly, they're not going to adhere to an exercise program, and secondly, they're not going to love movement or love exercise, and that's not a short-term goal. That's a lifetime goal.
Do you think also that people dabble too much? Like they do, I want to do boxing today. Oh, I'm sick of boxing. I want to do this today. And that ability to have that flexibility is causing people to dabble too much when they don't have as much focus, especially, I don't know if social media is to blame or instant gratification is to blame.
I guess the metaphor is that in the olden days, you go to a restaurant and you have a 3-course meal. Now you go to a smorgasbord and you just have a bit here and a bit here and a bit here and a bit here. But what I do know is that when the member finds something where they get that experience, then they stick with it. And if you look at a lot of F45s, they'll get that experience in an F45. Not every F45, but in some, they get that experience and then they stick.
Yeah.
And they're like, this is the best thing ever. And then they become promoters of the brand, promoters of the product. I really think, for me, pulling it all back and saying, okay, when this person comes in, I've got to create that experience. And at the end of the day, or at the end of the session, they're going to pay me a tip. And that tip is they're going to come back.
Yeah.
And they're going to come back and they're going to tell their friends. I would love, you would completely change how every personal trainer trained a client if you said you're going to get paid $5 an hour plus a tip from your client. I bet they get a completely different level of service.
Mm.
I tell this to my students all the time, is that I love the US for that, in terms of I love serving people, whether it be in hospitality, whether it be in fitness, whatever it might be, and I love the model of commission.
It's a pressure model because you've got to be on game. But that just says if you're on game, you get people back.
That's right. And if you don't like people, please fuck off.
Well, thank you. There's a franchise in the US, and the way they pay their cycle instructors is $45 minimum for a class, or $3 per participant.
Great offer.
So that person is at the front of the class saying, "Why don't you bring your friends to my class next week?" Because there's 52 bikes in the room, so that's $156 for a 45-minute class that they could earn. So they're in there giving their all for that 45 minutes. They're all over social before or after, giving it all because they know that they get that return.
Yeah.
Whereas in Australia, we go, we'll pay you $60 a class, and don't worry about doing any promotion. Don't worry about creating experience because we'll give you the 60.
And you go away with participants anyway. I'm going to do my own cycle class outside. I'll take my own boot camp and I'll take clients with me.
Yeah.
Well, it's been an absolute honour. Thank you very much for giving up your time.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, we do know that people take the time out. I know you've come from fair Eastwood.
Oh, it's not that far.
Yeah, not too far, is it, Eastwood?
No.
Yeah.
The other side of the bridge, the north side.
It's not too far. You said his passport all the time. He's always travelling around the world, isn't he?
The airport, right?
Look, I get inspired by people like yourself to see them fulfill their dream and passion by travelling and working and having that family life. So it's great to see. Inspirational man.
Oh, thank you.
You did the good intro. I just realised I did an okay finish.
Great exit.
Yeah, great exit.
Great what is it? Bookending?
Bookending.
Good bookending.
Give us a high five, mate, when we leave, all right? We didn't high five at the start. Shit, we've lost him.
Well, thank you again, and thank you, Zoe, for coming down with Dad.
Thank you, Zoe.
Great to meet you as well.
In the background.
For those that can't see, that's my daughter. She's a 10-year-old. And I picked her up from school and I said, "Hey, do you want to be on a podcast?" She's
Well, get in here then. You said you're going to be in here. Say hello.
Come around and say hello.
Is this your first podcast, or you've been on Dad's Fitness Business podcast?
Never before.
Never
Oh,
before.
really?
She
Wow.
Zoe, do you know what you want to be when you grow up?
No idea.
No
No
idea.
idea.
That's the way to be.
That's
We
it.
still don't.
I'm 31. I still don't have a clue.
What's your favourite sport?
Dunno.
Dunno.
Oh.
Oh, look out! Dad's involved. Isn't it netball?
She's getting it's netball.
It was netball.
Netball.
Yeah, okay.
Cycling netball.
Cycling and netball.
I thought she said cycling and netball. I'm like, this is
most likely.
Oh, most likely.
Gosh, we gotta check out.
cycling
What
netball.
position are you playing?
Mid-court.
Mid-court, centre.
Wing attack, wing defence.
That was my position, centre.
In netball?
Yeah, netball.
I like it.
Zoe's team's the only team that understands that participation is not part of sport.
Very good.
Winning
good.
is.
Is
That's it. Whoa, I see the fire in her eyes then.
Are you a right Eastwood player? No.
Beecroft.
Beecroft, huh?
And she's playing in the Hills District rep team.
Awesome,
Oh,
congratulations.
we don't know what our favourite sport is.
Yeah.
I was a Cheltenham girl back in the day, Pink Elephant.
Just down the road from us, isn't it?
Yeah, great area. Well, thank you, Zoe.
Thank
for
you,
your
Zoe.
insight.
Thank you, Justin.
My pleasure.
Pleasure.
She's the phantom photo bomber. She photo bombs JT and the Raw every Friday, or every occasional Friday.
Most Fridays. Not every
Oh.
Friday.
She's definitely got the expressions for it.
Oh, yeah. I wonder where she gets that from.
Yeah. Well, thank you guys.
Thank you so much for your time.
Thanks, heaps.
And welcome anytime.
Thank you.
And for those that want to find you, activemanagement.com. JT and the Raw every Friday morning on Facebook Live. I'm there giving you crap about jerseys or something if I can fit it in. Anywhere else?
No, that's the easiest. Just Google Justin Tamset and all those bad videos come up and also some good ones.
I don't know if they're allowed anymore, aren't they?
Thank you so much for your
Thanks, guys.
time.
Appreciate
Cheers.
that.
Bye-bye.